Welcome to the Anchorpoint. I am Jay Rosenthal.
And I'm Reva, Seth.
This is the podcast where we talk to the people building solutions for a world under pressure, from climate risk and wildfire to resilience, innovation, and the systems that keep communities standing. The Anchorpoint is about practical ideas, real leadership, and the technologies and policies shaping what comes next. And because it isn't theoretical, it's built, tested, and improved in the real world. We're bringing real world people on to talk about it. You ready to get going, Reva?
I do, and I'm excited to share that today we're here with Colin Daniel, president of Apex Resource Management Solutions.
It's going to be a great conversation. We're going to bring Colin in right now. Hey, Colin.
Hi there, Jay and Reva. Nice to meet you both.
Well, I'm going to kick things off, and we'll sort of do some intro questions first. But tell us about what Apex RMS does and what problem or problems you're solving for.
Yeah, so ApexRMS is a small Canadian company. We have staff all across the country from St. John's, Newfoundland to Nanaimo, BC. And we specialize in developing computer software systems to help with ecological forecasts. And most recently, we've kind of turned into the area of developing forecasts for fire and fire risk. And so that's a key element of our business these days. And I think probably the one that you're hoping to hear a bit more from me about today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd love to hear a bit more, Colin, about how you got started in wildfire risk modeling. Take us through a bit of your journey from landscape ecology, systems engineering, and how it all came together to this.
Yeah, I started my education as a systems design engineer, and I learned, some basic principles of how to develop software, but also how to just analyze systems in general. And then I got very interested, in my later years in undergrad in the natural world and ecology in particular. And so that's where I've spent the last 30 plus years, is working in that domain. And really the specialization right from the start for me and for our company has been how do we bring together the very best ecological science with the state-of-the-art software tools. And really our focus there, and my focus for my whole career, has been really how do we make the best science available to decision makers. So that's how we got into the ecological modeling, me and my company. The fires just emerged as a huge issue in landscape ecology in general. And it's not somewhere I started with in my career, but got drawn into it because of its importance to so many people and so many communities.
Yeah. I want to drill down a little bit into that. We've done a little bit of research on you and the company, obviously. Tell us a bit about the ApexRMS fire hazard map, what it is, what does it show, how does it work, and how is it practically used in the world?
Yeah, so fire hazard is one component of assessing the risk to any asset, really anywhere in the world, to wildfire. So the hazard piece is the first step in figuring out risk. It's really combining information about how likely a fire is to hit a particular asset or community, and also if it were to hit, how intense it would be. So we cross those two measures together, probability of fire with the intensity of that probable fire, to create a measure of hazard. And generally, practitioners that are interested more generally in risk of fire would take that as one piece, also overlay it on what assets they might have out there in the natural world that might be exposed to that hazard, how susceptible they are, and ultimately assess the risk of that asset to future wildfire. So our map is designed to produce a measure of hazard for anywhere in Canada at a resolution of 30 meters, which is quite fine. There are other products out there that are coarser resolution, but this is purposely designed to be used at a fine resolution, so you can really get down to a property level assessment of hazard to wildfire.
You touched a bit on my next question, but love you to go a bit deeper on how it's different than other predictive modeling products that are out there at the moment, and how it might also work in lockstep with some of the other products that are out there?
Yeah, so the Government of Canada, Natural Resources Canada, developed a product similar to the product we've produced. In fact, one of the key features of our product that differentiates it from some of the others that are commercially available is that it follows the open science methods that the very best researchers in Canada have developed over the last 2 decades, really, in assessing hazards. So that's one of the unique features of it, is that it is following those methods. How it differs from the federal government product, however, is its resolution. Number one, it's at a much finer resolution. So we're down to 30-meter resolution, 100 feet by 100 feet, whereas government research products are at a much coarser resolution than that, and not really as appropriate for assessing risk at an individual property level. So that's one of the major differences with government and also with commercial products, the open science. I'd say the last piece is that we're different in that we put a huge emphasis on trying to validate that product. So to be able to compare what we predict the risk to be to where fires actually occurred in the past. So this validation step is critical for many agencies. We talk to insurers, for example, and they say that, you know, for them to use this product effectively, they really need to know that it's been validated and it really does measure risk appropriately.
Can I ask a question about that? And Reva's going to be rejoining us in a second. Like, at what stage do planners or even others like use a tool like this? Like, what's the most common and what's the most impactful?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Jay. There are a number of ways to prepare yourself and mitigate for wildfire in general, right? The one that we think of most obviously is a fire is burning. You've got crews you've got to send there, and how do you decide where the fire is going to go next? That's what we call real-time fire, behavior modeling. That's not what our product does. Okay, that's it's too late at that point for really using our product. Our product is designed from the planning stage. So how do I, as either a municipality, for example, how do I set up zoning or subdivision planning so that it doesn't incur unnecessary fire risk? Utilities, how do I plan corridors or mitigate fuels around those corridors to reduce risk? Insurance companies are the most obvious. They want to be able to assess risk to properties before they underwrite them. And in general, communities, interested in fuel treatments and how to reduce the risk around the communities can use this product in a planning stage.
Colin, could you tell us a bit about the wildfire risk planning that you did in Swan River up in Alberta?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting project for us. This is something that in the last couple of years we've done a lot more of, which is starting to work with Indigenous communities in Canada, not just on fire risk, but other ecological questions as well. An extremely rewarding experience to be working in and with those communities. So the project with Swan River First Nation, this is a First Nation 3+ hours north of Edmonton, just outside of Slave Lake, Alberta. And in fact, Slave Lake, Alberta, I can't remember the exact year, I think it might have been around 2011, was a community that was devastated by fire. A large portion of the town itself, not the First Nation, but the town was burned to the ground. So the people of Swan River are very, aware of the risk of wildfire in and around their community. And this project is funded by the federal government, by Natural Resources Canada. It's a 4-year project to develop a system for actually any remote community, but a lot of them are Indigenous communities, to be able to assess fire risk around their communities when they don't have access to the data, to the scientists, to the computing power and all that stuff to do it on their own. So we're working with Swan River. They're our pilot nation to be able to try and figure out what it is that these First Nation communities really need. And, the rewarding part of it is I was just in the community just 3 weeks ago again for another town hall meeting. We had 50 people turn out from the community of, I don't know how big the community is, maybe 4,000 or 5,000. So a large percentage of the community came out, very active in telling us what kinds of things they want and these kind of tools that we're developing for them.
It's amazing. I want to sort of maybe ask when you think about the people who need this data, right? Whether it's the First Nation communities north of Alberta or insurers, utilities, municipalities, land managers, builders, people who have assets in these places, like what's the biggest gap between what's available and what they actually need to make these decisions? Are all the tools available? We just need to get it to them, or are there tools that are not available that we are still sort of in development or need to be thought of?
Yeah, I think like a lot of these problems, it's not just one thing that you need to solve to be able to solve the problem. There's bits and pieces of a variety of things. One of them is, there are some products out there commercially available. Not so much, there's tons in the US, limited in Canada, but there is some. But are they been validated? What is the science behind them? Are they really going to help a community? So that validation question, I think, is a critical one, and it hasn't been done on products that I know of, other than the Government of Canada's product, which is again a 2-course resolution for most community use. Getting the thing to be consistent across the entire country, important for a lot of like insurers. They need to know relative risk, so you need to be able to run these things across a large area in a consistent way. That hasn't been done really effectively. You need to be able to update them annually. That's one of the biggest challenges, I would say, is, government researchers produce a product in 2024 based on fuels from 2016. It's an interesting scientific paper, but it doesn't help the communities who have had all kinds of changes in their vegetation, the fuels around their community that aren't reflected in those products. So those are a few of the, I think, the roadblocks that still exist today between research and commercial products and actual uptake by different users and communities.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit more about your modeling platform, Burn P3 Plus, which I saw is both open sourced and peer reviewed?
Yeah, so that I've alluded to it already in one or two of my answers. It's something we're most proud of, is that the science behind everything we do is open. So the platform we use is called Burn P3 Plus. The plus is there because there has been a product called Burn P3 that's been around for close to probably 2 decades now. And it is a scientific model and a platform for doing the hazard assessments that I've been talking about, all interview, that was developed internally by Natural Resource Canada and made available to anybody who wanted to use it. But the challenge with it is that it was just not usable beyond the most highly skilled and technical scientists. It just was not a user-friendly environment. And so NRCan came to us 3 or 4 years ago wanting to upgrade the whole software system behind their modeling, and they brought it into our software platform, a platform we call Synchrosim that underlies this. So that's been a big part of Burn P3 Plus, is taking this 20 years of state-of-the-art science on fire behavior and putting it in a software platform that others can actually use. Yeah.
I want to ask a question sort of about this moment in time in Canada, because Canada just tabled the budget with record investment in wildfire preparedness and prediction technology. As someone who's been in the space or in and around the space for, I think you said 25 years, like, do you think this is an inflection point, both from a sort of budget perspective, public policy perspective, development perspective? Like, do you think we're at this inflection point here in Canada right now?
I'm optimistically, I'm optimistic about it that yes, we are. Like you said, 25 years, it's been 35. I don't know that I don't have the gray hair to show it, but it has been 35. Not all in fire, but working with government agencies for sure. And I've seen inflection points before, but I think from the fire perspective, your characterization of it is, as far as I can see, is accurate. I think motivated, it would appear, by some significant major fires and that have been high profile. I think of Fort McMurray and Jasper, Lytton. There's some high profile fires. We see smoke every summer now in urban communities that we never saw before. So there's an awareness there, I think, in the public, and the response of that by government. Yes, I am hopeful. And as an example, the Swan River project we talk about is a 4-year project that's continuing to be funded by funds that I haven't seen of that type in my career, really. That kind of, multi-year thinking that's come from the current federal government, and that's leading this stuff. So yes, I think the federal government is playing a major role in trying to turn the tide on this, and I see some exciting opportunities as a result.
It's really promising to hear. Just tell us a bit. I saw the team's expanding into Europe and Australia, which is really exciting. Can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah. So the basic idea is, we have if you go back to the Burn P3 platform that I talked to you about, that was developed all by NRCan scientists, it's state of the art, right? It does things that I haven't seen done by others anywhere else in the world. Australia, the US, Europe, they all have scientists working on this problem. They all have different flavors of fire hazard, but the platform and the open science side of it, the richness of it is unparalleled in the world. And so we as a company, now that we have that platform in our software, and we have it in a place that we feel makes it more accessible to anybody who wants to use, we're trying to take advantage of having that wonderful science under our belt, and to spread the word to the rest of the world. So I was in Australia last September, I think. We met with leading fire behavior modelers there. They have their own twists on it, but we're in discussions about how to bring this science together to be able to do better and bigger things in Australia. And we're also in conversation now with some collaborators in Europe to do the same thing. So I think there's huge opportunity there. It's a gain. I think, we spoke about this a little earlier before we started the interview, this idea that connecting people is so important, right? Like this idea that we can somehow, somewhere, connect all these people that are doing these wonderful things and bring them together. I think that's the missing piece. The science is there, and it's really connecting all these pieces to do better things worldwide with respect to fire risk. Yes.
Maybe you've touched on some of these things, but sort of what's next for ApexRMS? And then I guess this might be the same thing or something different. What are you most excited about right now?
Right. I think we're super excited about this hazard product. Just in what we're excited about now. Start with your last question first. And this is the first time we've ever, in my 35 years, considered selling a data product. I've spent my whole career developing software and putting models into software and trying to put those in the hands of decision makers to run their own models. What we discovered over the last year and a half of trying to do that is that it's difficult to generate those hazard maps. It's huge amount of data. It's big data science. There's some complex scientific things that go into that. So we pivoted to trying to produce the product that people can use off the shelf and then adapt as they like. So that's what I'm most excited about, is getting into the space of trying to sell data rather than simply modeling software tools. What's next for us, I think, is we talked about it first, expanding our market internationally to be able to bring the same techniques we've refined over with help of NRCan researchers for 20 years, but to bring those to bear to the rest of the world. But the other piece that I'm most excited about is marrying now the data with the models that we have. So we can produce a base data product of hazard that's widely accessible for anyone in Canada, but we can have people that want to do bespoke analyses in around their community that aren't possible off that data product, so that our software can marry and work seamlessly with the data, so they can open our software, say, what if I was to harvest around my community? And one community, for example, we're working with is interested in bioenergy. So can I get co-benefits of reducing fire risk by harvesting around my community, sending that into a bioenergy facility, and then reducing our energy costs and our CO2 emissions while at the same time mitigating fire risks? So it's that kind of, what if kind of analyses married with the data that I'm most excited about.
Super neat.
This has been awesome. I've been taking lots of notes. I have a whole sheet over here. But I want to thank you, Colin, for making time, for being part of the Anchorpoint. And we look forward to connecting with you as time goes on, to hear about projects you're working on, where you're expanding to. Always like homegrown Canadian stories as a Toronto guy myself. So we appreciate the time and continue the good work.
Thanks
so much.
You got it.
It was a real pleasure. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for listening and watching, if you're on YouTube, to the Anchorpoint. And if this conversation sparked something for you, a new idea, a new question, or a new connection, share this episode with someone who should be part of it. We're always taking people who would be good guests, be they entrepreneurs or innovators on the ground or operators on the ground. You can follow us, follow the Anchorpoint on our YouTube channel or on LinkedIn. You can visit our website at theanchorpoint.news to join the broader conversation through our newsletter, which is available at theanchorpoint.news. Reva, until next time, this was great.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.